The first time I saw him, I knew my life was about to change in ways I couldn't have imagined. I had just been assigned to him. Dante Pierce, the global icon. A Hollywood's most untouchable celebrity, the man whose face adorned billboards in every major city. I was 28, an ex-military operative turned personal bodyguard. They're hired to ensure his safety after a series of escalating threats. I had worked for high-profile clients before, but something about him felt different. It wasn't just his status or the way his name alone could command an entire room. It was something intangible, an energy, a presence, a pull that I hadn't expected and wasn't prepared for. Our first meeting took place in his private suite at the Lexington, a luxury hotel that catered to the world's elite. The suite was vast, decorated in understated elegance. But even the expensive furnishings and panoramic skyline views were overshadowed by the man himself. He was lounging on a sleek leather sofa, whiskey glass in hand, his long legs stretched out in front of him. He was effortlessly magnetic, tall, broad-shouldered, with piercing blue eyes that held the kind of wariness only a life of excess could bring. His dark hair was tousled, a perfect mess, though I knew he had stylists to make it appear that way. He exuded confidence, dominance even, in the way he watched me, a slow smirk tugging at the corners of his lips. "You must be the new guy," he said, voice smooth like silk yet edged with something sharper. "My last bodyguard was an absolute bore. I hope you can at least hold a conversation." I remained impassive. "I'm here to keep you safe, Mr. Pierce. Not to entertain you." His smirk deepened, amusement flashing in his eyes. "Dante, and we'll see about that." In the following days, I became a shadow, always within reach but never intrusive. I studied his routines, his habits, the subtle tells in his body language that signaled when he was restless, irritated, or, though rarely, content. He had a way of commanding a room without speaking, drawing people in with nothing more than a glance. It was both impressive and infuriating. I had been assigned to protect many powerful men before, but none quite like him. He was both reckless and calculating, guarded yet utterly open when he wanted to be. It was on the fourth day that I caught him looking at me. Really looking. We were in the back seat of his blacked-out SUV, driving through the neon-lit streets of Los Angeles after a long night of press events. The city pulsed outside, lights flashing in rhythmic bursts, but inside the car, everything was quiet except for the low hum of the engine. He had his head turned slightly, gaze fixed on me, the intensity of it sending a ripple of awareness down my spine. I pretended not to notice, but the air between us had shifted, thick with something unspoken. "You don't talk much," he finally said. "I don't need to. That's a shame. I bet you have some interesting things to say." I met his gaze then, and for the first time, I saw past the untouchable celebrity facade. There was something else there, curiosity, maybe even a challenge. Something that sent a warning bell through my head. Dangerous. The weeks that followed blurred into a rhythm of constant movement. He attended galas interviews, late night parties with people who were famous simply for existing. I was there for all of it, a silent guardian in a world of excess. And yet, no matter where we were, no matter how many people surrounded him, I felt his attention like a burning brand. Every glance, every fleeting touch when he brushed past me, every moment when our eyes met across a crowded room. It all built into something neither of us acknowledged, but neither of us denied. And then, one night, everything changed. It had been a long evening at a high-profile charity event. Dante had played his part beautifully, smiling for cameras, making the rounds with donors, saying all the right things in that charming, effortless way of his. But as soon as we returned to his penthouse, something in him cracked. He poured himself a drink, downed it in one gulp, and slammed the glass onto the marble counter. His jacket was already discarded, his bow tie undone. The raw edges of his frustration finally breaking through the carefully constructed mask. You ever feel like you're playing a role you don't even remember auditioning for? He muttered, more to himself than to me. I hesitated. I think everyone does. His eyes flicked to mine, sharp and unreadable. And what about you, bodyguard? What's your role? I exhaled slowly. To keep you safe. He took a step closer, and the scent of whiskey and something darker, something undeniably him, filled the space between us. And who keeps you safe? My pulse jumped. His gaze was unwavering, searching, daring me to look away. I couldn't. He lifted a hand, brushing his fingers just barely against my wrist. It was the smallest touch, but it sent fire through my veins. Danta, tell me to stop, he murmured. I should have. I knew all the reasons why I should have, but I didn't. And then his lips were on mine. It was slow at first, a test, a question. But the moment I responded, it deepened, urgent, consuming, as if he had been waiting for this as long as I had. His hands found my face, fingers threading through my hair as he pulled me closer. I pressed him back against the counter, hands gripping his waist, feeling the solid warmth of him beneath the fabric of his shirt. I was lost in him, in the way he tasted, in the quiet, desperate sounds he made as our bodies collided. It was reckless and dangerous and utterly intoxicating. When we finally pulled apart, his breath was uneven, his lips slightly swollen. Tell me this isn't just in my head, he whispered. I closed my eyes for a moment, knowing that whatever happened next, there was no going back. It's not, I declared. He leaned in for another kiss, this time making his way to the bottom of my neck, going through my chin and my neck stubble. Then he raised his head and grazed it against my cheeks. He then bit my earlobe with his 4 perfectly symmetrical front teeth and whispered, "Pleasure me, and I'll protect you instead," in a husky and seductive voice. My breath hitched, my pulse hammering beneath my skin, as his words settled over me like a dark promise. Thick with temptation. Pleasure me, and I'll protect you instead. The meaning twisted through my mind, dangerous and delicious. A shift in the fragile balance we had maintained until now. He wasn't asking for a moment of weakness. He was asking for surrender. And God help me, I wanted to give it to him. His teeth still lingered near my ear, the ghost of his bite sending a shiver down my spine, heat unfurling deep within me. I could feel his breath, warm and teasing, the tip of his nose grazing my jawline as if savoring my hesitation, waiting to see if I would break. My hands, which had been resting lightly on his back, now gripped him tighter, fingers digging into the fabric of his dress shirt. The silk strained beneath my touch, a poor barrier between me and the furnace of his body. My resolve warred with desire, my mind screaming all the reasons why this was reckless, why this was wrong, but my body, traitorous aching, knew what it wanted. Him, all of him. The weight of his offer hung in the air, intoxicating in its simplicity, devastating in its consequences. Would I trade my control, my carefully built walls, for a man like Dante Pierce? Would I risk the very thing I had been trained to protect? Not just his body, but my own damn sanity. He made it seem so easy, as if all I had to do was step over the invisible line between us and let him catch me. But Dante was a fire I wasn't sure I could walk away from unscathed. And yet, as his fingers traced the curve of my jaw, tilting my face just enough to meet his eyes, those stormy, knowing eyes, I realized I had already fallen. I put my hand on his chest, skimmed it down towards his pants. I removed his belt feverishly, whipping it out like a leash. He grinned like a satisfied mentor. I put my hand inside his pants and felt his tool. I gave him soft, gentle strokes and created a rhythm with his incessant, monotonous soft moans. After a few minutes, I felt a cold, thick liquid on my hand. That was my cue. He screamed my name as he released. I ripped my hand out of his pants, tilted my head towards and gave him a ravenous glance. Then I licked my palm. His face was completely frozen in awe. My madness had only begun. I then unbuttoned his shirt and removed his clothes. This signaled to him to do the same. His dense chest hair and my fully shaved brawny chest seemed to complement each other. I reached for his package. I started stroking more aggressively, this time looking into his eyes with my jaw inched forward, giving him a callous and dominating look. He tilted his back, letting his body respond to the pleasure. His body released a heat which made him shut his eyes and release every bit of tension in him. "Who's a good boy?" My throat released a velvet, toned whisper. I then knelt in front of him. His manhood was in my mouth, his thighs gripped tightly by my hands. I was coursing inside my mouth, between my teeth as I moved my head in unbreakable flow. I felt the release in my mouth and in my ear as he shuddered a loud moan. It felt like his body was trying to disengage, but I held on to my position firmly. He put his hand on my head and begged, "Please stop!" But I continued with his manhood still intact in my mouth. Even after the release, I didn't stop for a breath and kept on going. His body was aching and he was whimpering. Drops of sweat trickled down his perfectly toned stomach on top of head and the bridge of my nose. He released again, and now I finally jolted up. He stumbled back, his eyes almost shut. It felt like he was hovering because of this magnificent experience. He grinned, knowing very well what was coming next. At that moment, the dim light from the balcony shined inside and enveloped him in a white glow. I turned him around and made a tight seal between his back and my front. Our bodies started to move in a synchronized motion. I had bent him over, his head was on the counter facing his left side. He was smiling. Fully exhausted but fully submitted to me. He felt the full force of my hardness. I was thrusting with full force, making sure whenever I enter, I make him release yet another whimper to fully submit to his desires. As I came, I bent forward and gave him a passionate kiss on his back, making him feel well, loved in his maskless state, making him feel fully secure and cherished in his moment of vulnerability, which he feared people wouldn't accept, but I did. I then disengaged myself and pulled backwards. He straightened his back, turned around, and was smiling like a fulfilled master. His face, just like mine, it was flooded with sweat. His eyelids were heavy with exhaustion. He then stumbled forward and fell right into my arms. I then dragged him to his bedroom, where we drifted to sleep, shrouded in each other's warm embrace. What followed were weeks of stolen moments, whispered confessions in the dark, hidden touches when no one was looking, heated encounters behind closed doors. Every time we got too close again, we reminded ourselves of the risks, and yet neither of us could seem to stop. Then the threats started escalating. Anonymous letters, disturbing messages online, even a break-in attempt at one of his properties. The job I had been hired to do became all too real, and suddenly, every lingering touch, every stolen kiss was a liability. One night, after a particularly close call, I confronted him. "You need to take this seriously, Dante. I can't do my job if you keep." "If I keep what? Wanting you?" His voice was sharp, but his eyes were pleading. "Tell me you don't want this, and I'll stop." I stared at him, at the man who had somehow unraveled me with nothing more than a glance and a smirk. "You know I can't?" He exhaled, a mix of frustration and something else. Maybe. He stepped closer, his hand coming up to rest against my chest, just over my racing heart. "Then stay," he whispered. I did. Despite the dangers, despite the impossibility of it all, I stayed. Because somewhere between the long nights and the stolen glances, I had found something worth protecting. Not just him, but the part of myself that only existed when I was with him. And that, more than anything, was worth the risk. Stay tuned if you want to know how our lives unfolded later.